Alrighty, Krafton makes their official response. They officially respond to the original developers, their lawsuit, their accusations, whatever, with their formal filing in response. So we're going to be talking about that today. Hopefully you guys enjoy. If you do, like, subscribe, all the fun things, share the video, like the video. It does help out. So they have officially responded to the allegations that the original developers made towards Krafton. Now, as a quick recap of what's going on here, in case you have no idea, basically what happened is Krafton, seemingly out of nowhere, fired the three original creators of Subnautica. This created a little bit of backlash. Everybody's like, what the heck's going on here? After that, some information comes out. Hey, there was a $250 million bonus that had they pushed the game this year, they probably would have hit. And the developers and basically everybody surrounding Subnautica said the game was ready for early access this year. The three developers that were fired, developers that are still working on the game, play testers, people like the devs within the Discord, like everybody was basically on the same page that early access was 2025 and Subnautica 2 was ready. The only people that were not on board with this was Krafton, who was set to pay out, if it released, essentially a $250 million bonus. So then the three developers, they come out, they say some stuff. Krafton comes out and says some stuff. It goes back and forth, all this stuff. Well, then we officially get the lawsuit. So the original developers come out swinging. They bring up the lawsuit. They said, hey, we were fired against our contract. We were fired against the contract. We were fired against our agreement. We had an agreement in place that they couldn't fire us without just cause, which they claim they had none of that. And they claim that the sole reason that they were being fired was to essentially save the $250 million bonus and not release Subnautica 2 into early access into 2025 or in 2025. So they won't have to pay that out. Now, so all of that happened. They had all this stuff. They talked about everything. They went line by line. They said this happened and this happened and this happened. We met with these people. They basically recounted the entire story of everything leading up to this point. That's where this response kind of comes in. So Krafton is officially saying, no, we reserve the right to fire you, and it's because you were going to push early access before it was ready, and they feared for the reputation of the Subnautica IP, the franchise, and their name, essentially, their investment. So they're claiming that they had the right to fire them because they wouldn't delay the early access because they didn't want it to be detrimental to the game. That is their entire claim here. Now, we're going to go through this, and I'm going to actually read the line by... I'm not going to go line by line, but I'm going to hit a couple points here. Essentially, what this document says, what Krafton's position is they deny everything. Absolutely everything. They're going to deny all allegations to absolutely everything. And then they'll immediately say that, okay, well, this part's true, but we still deny it. They do that with everything. And then they also put in just random little bits that are like copy pasted from somewhere. Honestly, I feel like Grok or like Chat GPT could have probably wrote a better response to this, because like the way this reads, again, this could all be legal jargon. This could just be how it's legally done. And I don't know. I'm just a dumb YouTuber, right? I don't read through these things. So I don't know if this is like a typical thing, but like for me reading it, I'm like, what does this even mean? What are you even talking about? Like there's things in here that just make no sense, like to say certain things at certain points. I'm like, why are you saying that? But again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So take everything I say here with a grain of salt. I'm not a legal person. I'm just responding to information that's publicly available. This is my opinion, and that is what I'm sharing with you. So, but yes, they reserve the right to fire them, all this stuff. And honestly, what I think it's going to come down to, I'm trying to give you like everything up front before we get into the details here. Basically, what it's going to come down to is it's going to come down to I just realized I was on the wrong document. That was the other one. It's going to come down to the EPA, the agreement. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Now, their whole goal with this in their response is they want a dismissal of everything. Krafton says, hey, we want it dismissed, and we don't want to go any further with this, and that the OG devs need to pay for all the legal fees and all that stuff. Which, of course, you don't want to go. Yeah, of course you want it dismissed. You don't want to go into the stage where you have to prove what you say. You know what I'm saying? Right now, these are all claims. I don't think there's any evidence being submitted with this. Again, I don't know. I don't know the process here, but I don't think there's any evidence being submitted with this. I will tell you from reading the OG developers thing and what they said, like the dates, the times, the people, the conversations, it sounds like they have the receipts. It sounds like they have the emails. It sounds like they have the communications kind of backing up what they're saying. And in this document, there's nothing. There's basically just saying, no. You did this. No. That's the feeling that I'm getting. It's kind of like the kid in the corner, kind of thing, you know? And again, and then they just add whatever they can wherever they can. So yeah, that's basically what's going on here. And of course they want a dismissal, like I said, because I don't think they want it to go to the next stage, which I think would be like, I don't know, is it like discovery or something like that, where then like they put evidence in and stuff like that. So, but again, it's going to come down to the EPA. So like right here, the dispute centers on the equity purchase agreement the EPA entered into by former stockholders of Unknown Worlds and Krafton, a South Korean video game publisher and developer, on October 29, 2021. That's what it's going to come down to. They're going to have to submit the actual purchase agreement and see what's actually said. They say that in here that they're going to submit it for the court to review or whatever. But basically, if it's written in a way that supports them, I can see this 100% going their way. If it's written in a way that supports the original developers, I can see it going that way. So it's going to very much hinge on this agreement, which I don't know. Like I said, the original developer said that they could not be fired without just cause, which makes sense because, say, like I said, if you have a $250 million bonus on the line, what is stopping the company from just firing you right before they're supposed to pay that bonus and then not paying it? You know what I'm saying? Like there's got to be some securities in there to make sure that things like that don't happen. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's get on into this document. I'll have a link to this document down below. I'm not going to have it in my Discord because I'm just going to have a link. So if you guys are interested, I'll have the link down below so you can actually read the whole thing. It's 102 pages of just, it's just big company mumbo jumbo. So, but basically this first part right here is Krafton just saying their bit, you know, saying what they want to say, saying what they want to get out of the way, for record or whatever. So that's what this is going to be. And this isn't stuff that we haven't heard. This is stuff that they've already said publicly. Cleveland and McGuire abandoned their roles as studio-wide game director and technical director to focus on their personal passion projects and quit making games for Unknown Worlds entirely. Gil, who remained, focused on leveraging his operational control to maximize the earnout payment rather than developing a successful game. Well, if this person who remained is focused on leveraging his operational control to maximize the earnout payment was dependent upon them making money. So they would first have to make Krafton so much money before they got paid, you know? And this makes it sound like it's like it wasn't doing anything. It's like, well, he was making you money and he was trying to get paid out because of that. But they were all trying to get paid out. Like it was going to go to everybody. So also, they said that Cleveland and McGuire abandoned their roles. I have a hard time believing that if $250 million on the line, I don't feel like people would just step away from that. And I feel like this is their narrative that they're trying to push, trying to they're trying to do this. In 2024 and 2025, Cleveland stated that he was not actually working on Subnautica 2 and was no longer working on games, but working on a couple films, which is actually interesting. And there's a part that we kind of address that a little bit later. For his part, McGuire started working on initiatives that fall outside the company's main development activities, stating that his priority was to try something that feels personally meaningful to me. I feel like context within these statements is probably going to be key with these. I have no doubt that they could have said, oh, not actually working on Subnautica 2. What is the context of the rest of that conversation? You know what I'm saying? Context is very key. Pulling lines out of what people are talking about can completely change the meaning. So again, interested to see where that goes. Also, as a consumer in these things, I'm trying to not take a side on this. My gut feeling says that the OG devs are probably the ones getting screwed, are probably the ones right. But again, it could absolutely go the other way. They could absolutely have all the proof. This to me doesn't instill any proof whatsoever. This is them backing up and just saying the same exact things that they've already said on social media, that they've already said, released publicly or whatever. They're just saying the same things again. And they're not bringing they're not bringing anything to it. Now, like I said, they're worried about the game coming out half-baked. So Unknown Worlds received extensive feedback from KRAFTON'S internal publishing teams, which indicated that Subnautica 2 was not ready for release. If we remember to the OG devs, they said that this did indeed happen, that there was teams that said it wasn't ready. The teams were not familiar with survival games. They had no experience in them, and they didn't really have any experience with the whole thing as a whole with early access titles. If I remember correctly, that was what was told. So this makes sense, absolutely. However, if they didn't know what they were talking about, then their opinions or their feedback is worth nothing. When you have the feedback of all the other devs saying it's good, when you have the feedback of all the playtesters saying it's good, when you have the feedback of basically everybody else saying it's good, except for the company that's going to have to pay, Again, don't know. KRAFTON'S CEO warned key employees is the 3 devs. That's what they talk about this entire time. So KRAFTON's CEO warned key employees that a premature early access release of a highly anticipated sequel like Subnautica could cause irreversible harm to the entire IP franchise, pointing to the sequel of Kerbal Space Program as a prime example. I find this absolutely hilarious that they are trying, again, cause irreversible harm to the entire IP of the franchise. You know what else could cause irreversible harm to the franchise IP? Maybe being like a bad actor as a publisher. Maybe like being shady about stuff. Maybe like doing this whole thing. Like, you know what? I think they caused more damage by doing this, by this whole thing, than just having the game come out. Even if Subnautica 2 came out half-baked and like not great, I still don't think they would have got nearly the hate. They wouldn't have gotten nearly the negativity in the press of this. Like, this is like they kind of did this themselves. Now, what's funny about this, and it's kind of like the catch-22, that even if for some magical reason Subnautica 2 does come out in 2025 and people don't like it, KRAFTON'S can't say, oh, well, we told you so, because guess what? KRAFTON is in charge of it. So now if we get it and it's terrible, we could purposely say that KRAFTON sandbagged it on purpose because they just wanted to say, oh, well, see, we told you so. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're at a point where almost anything that KRAFTON does, we can't believe them anymore. So like that's kind of the problem that they're in. Now, KRAFTON, fearing how underbaked early access Subnautica 2 would be received by both existing fans and the broader market, urged Cleveland and McGuire to return to their post to generate a market-ready product that would not disappoint fans. Again, they use this term of having these two return to their posts, as in like they were gone. But again, later on, we will see that all these people, all these key employees, right, the 3 OG devs, they were in fact going to all of these meetings, doing all this stuff, and they admit it. They're like, oh yeah, this meeting did happen between these people. This thing happened between these people. This conversation happened between these people. So it's like, you're saying that they weren't working, but then you have to admit that they were doing stuff within the company. So like, obviously they were working to a point. Now, where it could be a matter of like perspective, like maybe Cleveland and McGuire, we heard that they moved up the chain, their perspective is broader now. Maybe they're not working specifically on the game, but they're overseeing everybody else doing it. So by them saying, oh, we want you to return to the game, it's like, but that's not their position anymore to do. So again, I think it's a little weird, but it is what it is. So let's get into some of the points and let's talk about how they respond to everything. I'm not going to go through everything. Like I said, if you want to, you can. And I'll kind of sum up like how this is broken down and like how this is working here. It's pretty simple, and I'm sure everybody would know, but just in case. So, what we have here is we have a number, and this is the essential. This is the allegation. This is what was said in the OG devs thing, their lawsuit, and then their answer is KRAFTON'S answer to that allegation. So, I'll just start with this one. This is referring to when Unknown Worlds released, I believe it's Natural Selections, into early access. Early access was so significant that Unknown Worlds embraced it as a studio pillar. We believe that our games excel when they are built with, by, and for dynamic communities. We value and respect the player's times, ideas, and engagement. It was basically a statement just saying, hey, we did early access with this, and we believe it worked out great, and we want to keep doing that. The defendant, KRAFTON, lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the truth of the quoted material and denies the allegations of paragraph 32. I don't know what allegations were in paragraph 32. There was nothing in here saying anything about anything, but that's what you're going to see every single time. They deny all allegations of every paragraph of every sentence, regardless of what it's talking about, which again, that could be a legal thing that, they have to say that, it's a coverall, it's a catch-all or something like that. But to me, it sounds like they just copy pasted that into absolutely every single line. They have to deny every allegation ever. And then they have to, back up whatever they say but like Krafton lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief. They're saying that they don't know enough that they can't even justify looking at it, essentially, is like what I'm getting. And now I know this one specifically is referring to like natural selection, but there's some that, like further down that's like, what do you mean you don't know? So let me continue on here. And like this one got me really good. I'm not gonna read this entire thing. I'm just gonna read the first sentence here. Unknown Worlds pushed Subnautica to an early access release in December 2014. The first sentence of paragraph 37. Unknown Worlds pushed Subnautica to an early access release in December 2014. Defendant denies the allegations of the first sentence. What allegations are in there? Of paragraph 37, except admits that Unknown Worlds released an early access version of Subnautica in December 2014. That is literally exactly what they said. What do you mean you deny it and then admit it? Again, is it a legal thing? I don't know. This doesn't make sense to me. Like we said, this was a South Korean company. There's some, maybe they could like language barrier thing. Maybe like, the things that they're meaning and things that they're saying might not necessarily line up with like how I'm interpreting things. So that could be a thing too, or it could just be legal stuff. But I'm like, defendant denies the allegations. Okay, I don't see any allegations in the first sentence, but okay. And then admits that they did that. Okay, what are you doing here? You're not doing anything. And then what they do, so like they say this whole thing about Unknown Worlds pushing Subnautica and it worked and all this stuff. And then they answer it basically saying the exact same thing to every sentence. And then at the very end, and they do this a few times, by way of further response, defendant avers that the key employee's early access method is a business method of selling unfinished games for a fee. So even though incomplete, they can quickly generate sales. That sounds like the most broken AI generated response ever. Defendant avers that the key employee's early access method is a business method of selling unfinished games for a fee. So even though incomplete, they can quickly generate sales. That sounds so like that. And they just threw it in there. However, Krafton warned the key employees that early access releases must be employed with caution because it is the expectation of fans and common sense in the industry that sequels of hugely successful games such as Subnautica 2 must have creativity and novelty far beyond the original game. And if they do not, the negative impact to reputation of the game, the company, and the franchise as a whole could be irreversible. Honestly, if I went into like ChatGPT or Grok or whatever your AI of choices, and you were like, what is early access for video games? This is 100% what I would expect to pop up. Oh, well, it is this. What are the side effects of early access games? And then it's like, oh, early access releases must be employed with it just doesn't sound good. It just doesn't. But again, honestly, the difference between legal jargon and AI might actually not even be that far away. Like that might have been this thing the entire time. But like, it just sounds bad. Let's see. Okay, so here's you know what? This is an example. Basically, IGN said that Subnautica was great. Of course, the defendant lacks any knowledge or information. They can't form a belief on it, so they deny it. They received awards. Defendant denies any allegations about them receiving awards, except that admits that Subnautica received certain awards. It's like, what are you going on about? Now, so some of the things that are kind of like funny. This one is hilarious. In the original filing, the OG dev said, to date, Subnautica franchise has sold over blank million copies and generating over blank million gross revenue. And that number is still growing. And that number is growing still. Defendant admits the allegations of the first sentence of paragraph 45. Defendant denies the allegations of the second sentence of paragraph 45 and notes that the phrase, that number is growing still, is vague as to which figure it refers. So they're saying, and that number is still growing. They're like, well, it's too vague. We don't know which one of these numbers which one it's talking about. I'm not a smart man, but what I would know is that if I'm selling more copies, I'm making more money. If I'm making more money, I'm probably selling more copies. So therefore, it probably doesn't matter which one they're talking about because it would work for both at the same time or independently. Like, it's just, what? Again, I'm just a dumb YouTuber. I don't know a whole lot. I'm not a smart man. But I'm just like, there's just things in here. It's just like, it's absolutely silly. Okay. So let's talk about, remember Cleveland saying the whole movies and stuff like that? And then they're like, oh, well, he was working on his private stuff, all this stuff. Well, in creating these unique experiences, Kim wanted Cleveland to develop Subnautica's franchise IP with cross-media expansion beyond the game into television or movies. In addition to Moonbreaker, the franchise IP effort would become Cleveland's focus. Defendant denies the allegations of paragraph 53, except admits that there were discussions between Krafton and Underworlds concerning potential cross-media expansion of certain intellectual properties. So they're denying all the allegations, but they're agreeing that, yes, there was discussions about cross-media expansion of certain intellectual properties. Isn't that what Cleveland just said? Isn't that what he said? Like, he was working on a Subnautica movie, but they're like, no, we deny any allegations, but we do agree that that meeting happened, and we did talk about those things. That's another thing. You're going to see that a lot. So then we have this part, which this part is actually kind of funny. And I feel like, again, it's a big tell of what's going on here. I'm going to read the whole thing. Under KRAFTON'S umbrella, Unknown Worlds continued the great work it had been doing when it was fully independent. As before the acquisition, Cleveland was largely focused on running the Moonbreaker team, while others at Unknown Worlds ideated on new game concepts and continued working towards Subnautica 2. Cleveland also got to work on the Subnautica film KRAFTON'S CEO had encouraged him to pursue. Okay? I'm going to focus on the Cleveland also got to work on the Subnautica film that KRAFTON'S CEO had encouraged him to pursue. Defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the truth of the allegations regarding Cleveland's involvement with the Subnautica film or any encouragement from KRAFTON'S CEO, and therefore denies the allegations of the third sentence of paragraph 65. So if you could please tell me, KRAFTON, how do you not know, and how do you lack knowledge and information to form a belief when it was you, your CEO, that told him to go do this, that said, hey, you should go work on this? How do you say you don't have that information? It's literally you. You can't. That's what I don't understand it. Now, I know that the CEO is probably not directly responding to this, and it's probably somebody else, but like, to me, that is extremely silly. It's like, hey, go talk to your CEO. Did your CEO say this? Well, you know what? Instead of saying that they did say that and that, yes, they told him to go, let's say we didn't have enough information on it because we don't want to admit to anything. That's what this entire thing is. They don't want to admit to anything. They want to deny everything and only admit what is like factually correct, you know? They don't want to, anything that might not be, they don't want to admit to it. Like this. How do you not know what your CEO, what your company was telling him to do? It's just silly. And then also, by way of further response, again, nothing they're not responding to anything that was said. They just want to throw in some extra stuff here. Defendant admits that Cleveland stepped away from the company's most important project of developing Subnautica 2. Okay, so KRAFTON admits that he stepped away from that. Cool. And he has devoted more time to personal projects, like working on the Subnautica film that your CEO wanted him to do. That one, maybe. As a result, the development of Subnautica 2 has continued to be pushed back from the deadlines originally promised by key employees, and the volume of the game included in the early access version has continued to decrease. Absolutely, 100%. I understand that. I get that. I feel like the decreasing of content for early access versions is completely normal. When you have a giant idea of a game and you want to do all these things, eventually when it comes down to early access, we need to focus on this, we need to focus on this. You still focus down on what you actually need to do. You have this big grand idea, and you have to figure out, and you have to prioritize what's going to come out, when it's going to come out, and what you have to do first. So like, I'm not like, that doesn't sound like a red flag to me. That's just how it works. You have to figure out you have to have your whole idea, but then you have to narrow it down to what's feasible for an early access and what you can build on after that is out, you know? So like, I don't feel like that's crazy. Again, it could just be me. So remember at the very top when it says that, oh, Maguire stepped away from their role as technical director? Well, Maguire's title changed from technical director to special project director so that he, Underworld's most talented engineer, could focus on research development within the studio rather than on managing people. They deny any allegation of this, but admit that Maguire's title changed to special projects director. What's funny is that you guys led with that he stepped away and abandoned his role as technical director. Did he abandon his role or did he get a new job? Because again, two of those could be the same like, yeah, obviously he abandoned his technical director role because it's not his job anymore, you know? Again, I don't know. I'm just putting things together, trying to piece things together from what information we have here. So this is now we're getting into like the public stuff, the public view, the public outlash, and with the role clarifications up complete, Unknown Worlds pushed ahead and unveiled the next step for the Subnautica franchise. It released the Subnautica 2 teaser trailer in October of 2024 on YouTube, where it has hundreds of thousands of subscribers. The fan community expressed great enthusiasm in the comments, and they have pictures of comments, things like that. What do you think Krafton says? Defendant denies the allegations of paragraph 77, except admits that Unknown Worlds released a teaser trailer for Subnautica 2 on YouTube in or around October 2024. Defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the fan community's reaction and therefore denies the remainder of the paragraph. Defendant further states that the selected screenshot is unauthenticated and not a reliable or admissible indication of fan community sentiment. So you're telling me that you can't tell on a YouTube video when people are excited with likes, hundreds of likes, thousands of likes? You're telling me that you are incapable of perceiving positive feedback. That's what they're saying. Defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the fan community's reaction. It gets better because, again, it gets better. So on the same toll of them not knowing how things are going, later they start talking about the outlash. This gets brought up, right? We've seen this. Do not buy Subnautica 2, this whole thing on Reddit, right? 41,000 upvotes. Do you think that people were upset with it? Their response to that? What do you think? What do you think their response is? I bet you know what it is. I bet you comment down below what it is. The allegations of paragraph 165 are inconsistent and speculative conclusionary statements regarding the views on an undefined group to which no response is required. They don't even have to answer. Defendant further lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the authenticity, authorship, or context of the numerous screenshots from Reddit contained within paragraph 165 and therefore denies the allegations. Defendant also states that the screenshots do not constitute a reliable or admissible indication of community sentiment. Defendant also states that the screenshots do not constitute a reliable or admissible indication of community sentiment. How is 41,000 upvotes on not getting Subnautica because you're upset at Krafton? How can you not see what the community sentiment is on that? Again, they deny everything, take responsibility for nothing. That is what it is. That's all they're doing here. I found that absolutely hilarious. And you know what? Actually, I'm gonna touch on my thing too, because obviously my video was featured in here at one point, and they obviously had to say something about it. So my video, the video's creator noted, I thought we were in a really good place for the game, and I can't say that I have the confidence anymore. And my expectations for Subnautica 2 have severely dropped. We've seen this before with other games. Changing the leads and stuff like that just completely kills it. I said that, right? Denies the allegations, obviously. Further objects to the screenshot of the YouTube video containing the paragraph. The title is argumentative, speculative, and lacks foundation and is not a reliable, admissible reflection of the community's sentiment. Right. The community didn't, right? We're not the community. Our voices don't matter to Krafton. Krafton does not believe what we say. Krafton does not care about us. The community, they don't care about. What do they care about? What is the one thing that you think Krafton cares about the most? I'm going to tell you, it probably has to do with $250 million that they're not going to have to pay out. I bet you. That's probably what they care about most. The Last Bacon was on here. They said the exact same thing. Last Bacon's video had 300,000 views in only a couple days. Mine was like nothing compared to that. This is exactly what is going on. And it's just wild. There's still more stuff in here. They talk about, you know, they talk basically everything. They go over everything. They talk about everything. They deny everything, all this stuff. And I just, it's to the point where it's like, I don't trust anything that Krafton says or does. I don't think so. I just don't. Everything in here, every response in here is just deny it, but affirm it. So some more examples of just fun times here. So more like key things that are like, you know, dates and stuff like that, that, like I said, I feel like the devs had receipts for. On May 20th, Cleveland joined Kim, Krafton's CEO, and some colleagues for lunch. Kim said that if Unknown Worlds released the game on its planned timeline, meaning Krafton would have to pay the earnout, it could be disastrous financially and hugely embarrassing for Krafton. Obviously, they admit that there was a meeting between Cleveland attended a lunch with Krafton's CEO and other colleagues, but denies everything that happened in there, including the characterization of Mr. Kim's statements. Oh, we had this meeting. Krafton's obstructionist tactics intensified at a May 27, 2025 milestone meeting. Krafton mandated gatekeeping process for admits that the milestone meeting took place as part of Krafton's standard development review. Defendant denies the remaining allegations. So there's this constant like, hey, on this day and this time we talked to this person. And it's like, well, yeah, you did, but we deny everything that was said. So around the same time, Krafton escalated its intimidation campaign against the founders. In a June 10th letter to the founders, Krafton's CEO made unfounded claims that Cleveland and McGuire's involvement with Unknown Worlds and falsely accused the founders of failing to fulfill their contractual responsibilities. Guess what? They deny everything, except that admits that Krafton's CEO sent a letter to the key employees on or around June 10th, denies characterization of the contents of that letter and remaining allegations. On June 18th, Krafton's head of global strategy and operations met with Gil in Krafton's first attempt to get the founders to accept a lower earnout. Guess what? They deny everything, but the meeting did take place on June 18th, 2025, between Krafton's head of global strategy and the operations and Gil, but they deny everything else. Once again, June 19th, Krafton sent another letter taking issue with Unknown Worlds exercising his contractual right to control the launch date. What do you guess they're going to say? They're going to deny everything, except for admits that the Krafton sent correspondence to the key employees expressing concerns regarding the planned launch of Subnautica 2. So, like, they're saying they deny everything, but, like, they're saying the gist of the letter was about releasing the game. And then they expressly agree here, except admits that the Krafton sent correspondence to the key employees expressing concerns regarding the planned launch of Subnautica 2. You are just confirming what they said. To me, Krafton returned to the negotiation table on June 26th, this time offering the amount that Krafton's model showed, the earnout. Again, this is all just, this is the earnout stuff. Again, defendant denies allegations, except admits that Krafton engaged in discussions on or around May 26th with key employees regarding the earnout. So again, we're going to deny everything, but we did have a meeting at that point and talked about that. If you guys weren't worried about the earnout and worried about paying the bonus, why were you meeting with them about it? Why were you meeting with people if you were so worried about the game coming out and being detrimental? Why were you meeting with them about the earnout? If Krafton honestly believed the entire time that they had the right and the whole thing was to protect the game wasn't ready, all this stuff. If that was the entire reason for this, why are they having meetings talking about the earnout, talking about adjusting it, talking about all this stuff? Why? That doesn't make sense. You wouldn't have those meetings unless that's what you were talking about. If you're meeting with them to talk about the earnings, the employees regarding the earnout, do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? To me, that's like a red flag. That doesn't make sense. Why would you have that meeting if that's not what you're worried about? You said that's not what you're worried about, but guess what? You're having that meeting, so you are obviously worried about that. And then here, a thing like this. This is the icing on the top for me. On July 1st, 2025, Krafton emailed each of the founders with letters informing each that they were terminated effective immediately. What is the answer? Defendant denies the allegations of paragraph 131. Defendant further avers that on July 1st, 2025, Unknown Worlds emailed each of the key employees with letters informing that they were terminated effective immediately. What did they just say then? What did they just say that you're denying? Yes, that happened. So what allegations are you denying? Again, this is probably just a whole thing that they have to deny every single allegation of every single paragraph. But again, to me, to us, to people, the viewers, us, that sounds like terrible, terrible stuff. Like it sounds dumb. Before terminating the founders, Krafton also removed them from Unknown Worlds board of directors without their knowledge. Guess what? Deny allegations, except admits that they were removed from the Unknown Worlds boards of directors. Again, why? Okay, it's silly. This entire thing is about that. So there's a whole lot more in here, and if I didn't cover something, I do apologize. I have recorded this video, I don't even know how many times. I recorded it last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. I was gonna have it come out first thing in the morning, but I was a little heated, and I was like, yeah, I'm trying to be neutral, because again, stuff could come out and it could absolutely go in the favor of Krafton, and this whole thing could be legitimized. It could be. I'm not saying it can't. I will happily admit that I'm wrong if evidence proves that I'm wrong. But my overall opinion is one party seems to have the receipts. Cleveland, McGuire, and Gill seem to have correspondence, seem to have information regarding all of this happening. And it seems like they're going to be able to prove it in court. That is what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to go to court. I don't see this being dismissed unless the EPA, that agreement, unless they can find in that agreement that they were fired rightfully. If they cannot, there's no way it can get dismissed, in my opinion, because they were incorrectly, they were fired without cause, and they shouldn't be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Again, like, if you had $250 million on the line, you have to have a safe holder, a thing in place that says you can't fire me before you have to pay me that, you know? That doesn't work. Otherwise, people would do that all the time. It's like, yeah, I'll give you a bonus at the end of the year. All right, at the end of the year, fired. Sorry, you're not getting your bonus now. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just do that. Maybe you can. I guess you can. So, but that's the sentiment. And I don't know. Leave comments. Let me know what you think. There's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff I wanted to say. There's a lot more stuff I wanted to cover here. But I'll have a link down below if you want to check it out for yourself. I'm trying to stay neutral. I'm just trying to see where things go. I don't think we're going to see anything else. I think that this is 100% a admit nothing, save face, because it's public. And then I don't know if it doesn't get dismissed and it goes to, like, you know, an actual court or whatever. I think all that's going to stay private until it's over, or not. I could be wrong. Maybe it's a public thing. I have no idea. But I don't think they want to give out any more information than they have to publicly, which is why they just deny everything and just admit whatever they have to, I guess. I don't know. So I don't think we're going to see anything else for a while. I'm actually surprised that we saw this. I mean, I guess they probably were going to have to respond to somehow, but it took a little while to get this, didn't it? So I don't know. Leave your comments. Let me know what you think. Do you think Krafton is in the right? Do you think the OG devs are in the right? Do you think they have a leg to stand on? What do you think? And you don't have to, like, if I said something you don't agree with, by all means say it. We can disagree. We can have cordial conversations and discussions all the time. I have no problem talking to people that disagree with me. But let's just keep it cordial, because some people like to get heated and some people like to get rude and nasty, and like, let's just be chill about it. You know, let's just talk about it. It doesn't affect us regardless right now anyway. So, I hope that the devs are doing good in all this. I hope that the people still working on Subnautica, none of this is anything I ever wanted for them. I wish that they didn't have to deal with this. I wish nobody had to deal with this. I feel bad for the developers still working day in and day out on Subnautica 2. I think the game is going to be great. I think it's going to be fantastic, not because of Krafton, but because of the awesome team behind Subnautica 2. Subnautica 2 has my full support as far as the devs go. Krafton can take a hike at this point for me. But the developers of the game, I'm fully in your court, and I want only the best for you. So I just hope that I hope the developers don't see, if there's any developers watching this, there's probably not. Like, let's be real, I'm just a little tiny YouTuber. But if there's any developers watching, like, I fully support you guys and what you're doing, and your guys are making an awesome killer game, and I'm so excited, and I hope to play it one day. And I'm not trying to, burn any bridges or say anything about the actual developers working on this. So this is all Krafton. This is all, unfortunately, a bad actor in the gaming space, and I just don't like it. So leave comments. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.